Hi, this is going to be a presentation on how to use Twinmotion. So I have these renderings of this project that I did. It's modeled in SketchUp and then it's rendered in Twinmotion, and it has really nice reflections and materials and lighting and trees and plants and people. That's all of this is included in Twinmotion. So you don't have to buy anything, any objects and import them. You just model the building the way you want it. And then all these cars and everything, the sky, it's all included in Twinmotion. So I'm going to show you how to do this. And you might ask, well, why not use another program to render in? There's lots of other rendering programs that work good, but the main reason I chose Twinmotion right now to use is that after I can get this renderings done, I can press one button and send this entire project with all the lighting and all the plants and people and cars and everything into a website where I can send someone a link to that website and they can open this up and just it's the actual 3D project fully rendered, and they can just press the forward button and just walk around the project, and they can see exactly what their building is going to look like, or the design, whatever it is that you're rendering. And the people are fully 3D, the cars are fully 3D, the trees, the sky, everything is fully functional. And this is just a website link that you can send to anyone and they can walk around the project fully rendered. And that's very powerful for just conceptualizing their design so that you don't have to explain it or spend a lot of time rendering out different images or animations. You could just send them this link and they can walk around for them, see it for themselves. So I think that's really powerful. That's why I'm using Twinmotion right now for projects. So let's get into how you can do this. So first off is to have the model in SketchUp, and there's just a few things that you want to do to prepare your model to go into Twinmotion that I've discovered. It might look a little bit funny, like the grass is a little bit different colors. There's a reason for that. And you might notice that there's no textures, there's no brick texture, there's no asphalt texture. All the materials are flat. And these two materials might look similar, but they're different, which is important because when you go into Twinmotion, you want to name all of your materials something different so that you can apply the Twinmotion materials to them. And the Twinmotion materials are very powerful. And also, if you use SketchUp textures, like images of things in SketchUp, and then you import it into Twinmotion to do the renderings, it's going to create a separate folder with all the textures from SketchUp. And so whenever you send the Twinmotion file to someone, you have to send them that folder full of textures, which is a little bit annoying. If you can get away with using all just Twinmotion materials and textures, you won't have to worry about that folder of textured images that you have to send when you send someone the Twinmotion file. Because if you use everything that's just inside Twinmotion, they open the Twinmotion and then they have all the textures that they need and all the people and cars, everything is included in the software. So there's no need to send separate files. You just send the one Twinmotion file. Sometimes you can't get away with it and you need a special type of brick or a special type of wood grain or something that's very specific to what you want to show, or the texturing has to be done a certain way and a certain direction. You just can't get it and go ahead and apply it in SketchUp before you import it into Twinmotion. So to get Twinmotion open, you have to download this is the Epic Games launcher. So once you download and open up the Epic Games launcher, you should see this. And then up here in the top, there's a Twinmotion tab. Click on that. And then the first time you open it, it may say update to the latest version. You just click update first. And then once it's done updating, you click launch and it will open up Twinmotion. So if you already have an Epic Games account, if you played Fortnite or other video games like that, or if you ever use the Unreal Engine, you may already have an Epic Games login, and so you can just use that same one, or you might have to create a login. So this is what we get when we open up Twinmotion, and to look around, you hold the right mouse button down and move the mouse around to look and look at your scene. Um, the first thing I like to do is import the model. So I just click this import plus button here, uh, click open. Let me expand this a little bit. And then I'll go to my desktop and then I have my model here. So I'll just double click on that and say import. So it's going to bring in the whole SketchUp model. I might have to look around to find it because it came in behind me. So here's the SketchUp model. Um, and I'm just gonna kind of zoom in to the view that I want to be my first view of the rendering. Now, the first thing I want to do is get rid of the city because there won't be a city in the background, and I don't want to mess with this. I'll just put my own background trees and stuff in here. So to get rid of that city image, click on this middle tab, which is settings down here, then click on location, then go over to the right, click on background, and then where it says picture city, just change it to none. And we'll just start with a clean slate. We won't need we're gonna make our own background. So the next thing we want to do is put in a better sky. So to do that, we click on this little white arrow and it will open up our objects here. And I also like to click this white arrow over here just so I can see all the objects that are in the scene. So we can see we've got this ground plane and then we've got the SketchUp model right here. And if I click on this little arrow, I can see all the different objects that are in my SketchUp model. And I can select them that way, or I can just click on them and inside the screen to select them, and then click the arrow to minimize that. So to change the sky, well, let me go back into my settings, and then I click on lighting, and then right here where it says dynamic environment, I can click on dynamic sky. Which it already has a dynamic sky, but what I need to do is I need to find a better sky than just a plain one because I like something with a little more color. So in here in our object library, click on HDRI, which stands for High Dynamic Range Image Environment, and then click on Skies. And then I like to click on the low sun option because it's a little bit more dramatic. The morning or noon or afternoon, it's just bright sunny day. You may want that, but and then I click a cloudy just to get a little more interesting skies with some sunsets or close to sunset or backlighted backlit clouds and stuff like that. So as you what you can see is what's interesting is they don't want to fill up your hard drive with all of the objects. There's thousands of objects, hundreds of skies, hundreds of people, hundreds of cars, and hundreds of plants and trees. So they don't want to fill up your hard drive by not making you download all of them, so you can download them as you need them. So I would drag this over, but it's not going to work because I can see right here there's a download button, and that means I don't have it downloaded to my hard drive yet. So I got to click on that first. The wheel will spin, and now that download button's gone. That means that image of that sky is on my hard drive. Now I can just drag it into my sky, and it will load it onto the sky. It'll take a minute, especially the first time you load an object into Twinmotion. It has to download everything. Now I can just adjust the rotation and rotate it the way I want. I'm not going to spend a lot of time messing with it like I might when I'm just this is just for demonstration. So that's how you do that part. Um, and there's a really cool trick that will save a lot of time when you're doing your next projects is to save any objects you really like, save it to a user library. So to do that, you just right click on it. Um, actually, I guess I don't think I can do it on this one, on the sky. Um, maybe just the objects. Actually, I could now to save this so I could find it more easily, I could click the like button, the heart, so that let's say I'm in here and I click on this heart. So all the objects that I have clicked the like button will show up automatically. I don't have to go looking for them. So that's a good little option. There's also another trick to save objects. I guess you can't do it with skies, but objects into a separate user library, which is down here. That's very powerful. So now what I want to do is I'm going to go back into settings. I want to start to adjust the settings because this is very bright, washed out, and I like to get a little bit more contrast to my render and not so flat and like have some outlines. Just that's how I like to do it. And if you're working on a project with me, I'm going to show you the exact settings I like to use that it will save us time working back and forth. So if I click on render, well, first of all, let's just save it. Let's just save as on the desktop, and we'll do as a test. Okay. So, I go into settings, I'm gonna click on render, and now I'm going to adjust uh, the shadow setting. So I don't want it to go too far because my shadows get lost. I just want to give it to a setting where the shadows are everything is casting a shadow, but it's nice and crisp. So I'll start um, right there for now. And the shadow, I just adjust this until it looks good on the screen. So let's go back into settings and then go to lighting. Actually, let's go to camera next. And then where it says visual effects, click on that. And then where it says color gradient and then type, it says none. But there's this one that I like to use. It's called Sign 11. And that just gives it a little more, like, if you can see, this one looks flat. This is more like the normal uh, when you first open Twinmotion. Now watch this when I click Sign 11. It just gives it a little more contrast, a little more color, a little more pop to it. But what we do lose is we lose some of the edges because it's kind of the high contrast. So what I do is go back into the visual effects. I can just click right here to go backwards one. Click on filters where it says type none. I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom, click on it, scroll down and click light line. So It may be hard to see, but everything has a really light outline on it so that it kind of gives a little more definition, especially in the creases in the metal. The cut joints for everything has a little more definition, and it might not be realistic, but I think it looks good in the renderings. So now that part is done. So after the visual effects are done in our camera, I'm going to go to lighting. So I'm going to settings, lighting, and then where it says exposure, it says 0, but there's lots of exposure, which is weird. But what's happening is it's on auto exposure. So I go down to this little word that says more, click on it, and it says auto exposure on. But I don't want that because that then the exposure, the brightness will change as I walk around the scene, and I don't want that. So I'm going to turn that off and then turn the exposure up to where I like it, which is usually just under 3, um, is where I usually like it. And I'll show you why. It looks dark right now, but what I do is I turn up um, the sky brightness. So I click on the sky where it says more, and then where it says intensity 4, I turn that to like 17. And then that sky really lights up the scene. Um, and that now this is looking more like the way I like it because it's not so washed out and the sky is giving it more of a dynamic lighting to it. So I'll just type in 17 because I know that's usually what I like to have it at. So exposure just under 3. This stuff is all fine to leave it the where it is. Sun intensity 25, ambient 0.75, all that stuff, I just leave it alone. Um, Now what I need to do is go back into settings and I'm going to click on location. And I've noticed that when I bring models into SketchUp, they don't usually come in at the right angle. I don't know why, but there's something happening where SketchUp and Twinmotion are not communicating properly. So, I'm not sure why this isn't open. Oh, it's probably trying to use the sky so as my lighting. That's why it won't let me change the time of day. So if I go into settings, lighting, and then sky more, and then intensity more. Okay, so this is kind of going deep. So let's try that just for once again. The settings, lighting, sky lighting more, intensity more. Now where it says match sun. So what this is doing is it's getting the location of the sun from my sky. But I don't want that because I want to be able to make sure that the sun angle is accurate to my project. So I'm going to turn that off. So now the sky stays where I like it, but now I can control where the sun angle is. So I'm going to go back out to location. Now I can change the location, which will change the sun angle. So the project is over here in the United States. And then for some reason, the north angle is almost never aligned the right way because I'm pretty sure that north, it may be this direction or this direction, but I'd have to go back and look at the plans. But right now, I'm just gonna say, okay, I think north is this direction, So where that red arrow should be pointing up. So I'm just changing it using this north offset. So now it's pointing the correct way, and now the sun angle is doing what it's supposed to. And if I don't like the sun angle, now I can change the time of day and I can get a different, or change the month and I can get a different sun angle, but it will be more accurate to what it is in real life. So let's just go with that for now. Um, I may want to lower the brightness of the sun just because it looks like for this kind of a sunset that it's a little bit too bright. So let me go into lighting and I could turn down the intensity of the sun so that, yeah, so that looks a little more realistic. I'll do 13. And you can increase the sun size, but I don't want to do that. So um, I'll just leave. I want to leave it where it was. Okay. Okay. So I had this at 13. Okay. So I like that for now. Um, so you want to set all these settings up before you set your cameras up because the cameras are going to copy the settings that you have set already. So all this stuff, I usually leave it. I may adjust it just a little bit if something doesn't look right. Like I can adjust my camera angle, the lens angle to be more zoomed in or more fisheye lens. But for the most part, I'm just going to leave everything as is because it's pretty decent until I get to the final touches. I could tweak it just a little bit, one way or the other. Or for the parallelism, if I'm like this and I'm doing a rendering that's up close, I can turn this on and that will make the lines of my image go straight up, which looks a little nicer for close up image renderings. But for back here, it looks okay either way. You can have it on or off for this view. Okay, so now that I like the view how it is right now, I'm going to actually save a camera. Um, so instead of going to settings, I'm going to go into this fourth button called media, and then where it says image, you want to click on that and then click the plus to create an image. So this is kind of like our camera. So if I'm walking around using ADSW or the arrow keys, and then to look around, I hold the right mouse button and move the mouse so I can move around just like I was in a video game. Um, Now, if I click that camera, it will go back to the camera with all the settings and the same camera angle. So I'm going to set up three cameras. Set one here, click the plus sign, and then I'll set a close-up one here, and I'll click the plus sign. And then for this one, let me just update it a little. I can click the update. And then if I click on the more button here, I can adjust settings just for this camera where it says image 3. I can adjust my camera and then turn parallelism on, but it will only be on just for this camera, not for the other ones. So if I go back to media and then images and I go to my other views, parallelism is not on, but for this one it is on. So that's how you can tweak the settings for each camera. Just click the more down below it. But for the most part, most of the settings will be the same for all of them. Just a few little things here and there you might want to change. And then if I just want to go out of this media, there's this button here to quit media mode, and then I can go back to adjusting the scene. So Next, we're going to work on materials. Okay, so let's do a save as. What we're going to do is do file, and underneath the save as, there's something called incremental save, and that's good because that will automatically save it as a new file, like a save as, but with one number higher. So if I click that, and then I go to my desktop, I can see my original file is test01, and then this is the incremental save, test01 underscore 000. And then if I do it again, file incremental save, it will be test under test01 underscore 001. So what will happen is if I mess up the file and I accidentally delete a couple of things or delete a camera or whatever, I want to go back to a previous version, I can just open up a previous version, like from 30 minutes ago or whatever time in between my incremental saves. So I like to do that. And then at the end of the day, you can just go back and once you've got your product the way you like it, you can go back and delete most of them and just save two or three as a backup. Okay. So now what we're gonna do is add materials. First thing I want to do is add a better material for the glass. So the first button in the library is called materials, and then the first button in there is called glass. I think the one I like to do for external glass, it could be a reflective glass, but there's one I think was a little bit better. It's like a uh, two-sided glass. If I can find it. Oh, right here, two-sided glass. I think that's the one I ended up using, or maybe it's the reflective. Either way, let's see, I think because I can see the clouds in there. Now down here, I'm going to turn the opacity um, up to 90% or a little bit above 90. Um, I think they're probably about the same. Reflective glass. There was a reason why I thought I liked two-sided glass better. Maybe it's a little bit brighter. I think that's what it was. You can always adjust the color a little bit. I'm not sure exactly, but um, so let's go with that for now. And then for the metal, let's go back to materials. Well, first of all, uh, once I get a material the way I like it, I'm going to save it into the user library. So first thing I'll do is rename it so it has my new name. I could just put Josh at the end of it. That way I know I edited this material and I right click on it and say add to user library. So what I do is I click on the library button and then I go down to user library. And you'll see these are folders I've already made, like one for materials, one for people. So I've done this already, but when you start yours, you won't have these probably. So you just click this create folder and then right click on the folder, rename, and then this will be materials uh, 2 because this will be a demo. So then I can drag this and drop it into that folder and then click on the folder. So here's my materials. So this is very powerful because once you get the materials that you like to use very often, you can just reuse those very easily. It's extremely powerful. So the next thing I'll do is I'll go to materials, metal, and then I'll find kind of like a light, maybe the light copper or this light material. And then I think that's the one I really like the best out of all of them. So I'm going to use the same material, but I'm going to just edit the color of it. So I'll save this, rename it, uh, right click or just click on this little dots and then click rename. And then I'll say light copper and then my name, right click, add to user library. Now I'm going to duplicate this material and then change the color. So I'll click on those three dots again, click duplicate. So now this is a new material, even though the name didn't change, it's kind of confusing. But if I click these buttons down here, I can see all my materials. So this is the one, the light one. This is my new one because there's no check mark. So that means it's not being used in the scene yet. So I'll click this to go back to my material. I'm going to rename this first. So instead of light copper, I'm going to call it dark blue copper. And then I'm going to drag this onto this material here. And then I'm going to change the color. I'm just going to click on the color and then make it darker. Like give it a little bit of a blue tint to it. Make it darker. And I'm also going to make it more reflective. So the reflection, I'm going to turn that up a little bit. I think I like that right there. So let's leave that. Um, Now let's work on the asphalt. Well, first I'm going to right click on this, add to user library. And then if I go to my library, user library, so that it just dumps them into this user library, but I can drag them into my materials folder that I made. So now I've got nicely organized all my materials that I like. Now let's click on materials. Let's go to concrete and asphalt. Um, I think it's in if you click on the ground material ground button and then man-made, you got asphalt. There's a few different ones. I think I just used the number one, but then uh maybe or maybe the number two. Well, yeah, I think I like the number two better. And then I turn up the reflectivity a little bit, give it a little bit of a shine as if it was brand new or a little bit damp from rain. Also, another thing you can do is click on the settings and go into weather, and you can add, if you turn this uh, towards the clouds, it'll start adding puddles in your scene automatically. And then if you keep going, it'll start raining. And if you keep going farther, actually, if you turn this one from rain to snow, and this is winter, which is it's pretty cool stuff. So if I turn it to here, I've got it snowing, but then if I don't want it snowing that much, I can turn this down and it will snow less. I can just have a little bit of snowflakes. But for most of the time, I'm gonna have no weather or maybe just a little bit. Just to sometimes I put the puddles in there, and then some people say they don't like it, but I think it looks kind of cool. But you'll have to see whatever the person who's paying you to do it, unless you're doing it just for yourself. So, um, I'm gonna go back to my materials. Um, so to now that I am away from that material, if I want to edit it, I click on this eyedropper right here and then eyedropper on the material and I can get this back and now I can edit the settings. I can make the scale a little bit bigger, the bumps bigger. If I click on more, I can rotate a little bit so it's not so straight. Looks a little bit more random. That might be a little bit too big. So I'll turn the scale down a little bit. That's probably good right there. And then if you can either adjust the color here, so I can't go any lighter, but what I can do is adjust the luminosity. So where it says color, go down where it says more underneath the color right here. And then the luminosity is at 50%, but I can turn it up to make it brighter, and then I can turn it down to make it darker. So it's absorbing more light or it's reflecting more light. So if I don't want it that dark, you know, I can adjust it a little bit. Probably go, it's actually not bad. Okay, and then right here, the grunge, that helps a lot. It adds a little bit of dirt, like messiness, so it doesn't look so even. Like if you can start to see these even lines, those are the pattern of the tileable texture of that. But if you turn a little bit of grunge on it, it helps to hide and makes it look a little bit more random. So it can be nice. It looks a little bit dirty, so you don't want to use too much. Um, but it can help out sometimes. So let's rename this. Let's see, and then right click, add to user library. All right. So when I did that, I thought I'd already saved it to the user library, but I didn't. But if I edited it and then I saved it again, you can just go ahead and delete the old. So let's say I edit this again and I want it to be darker, okay, like that. And then I save it again, right click, add to user library. So here's another one with the same name, but I don't want to keep both of them. I just want to keep one. So I just got to pick which one I want to keep. So I delete one of them. Okay, so let's add a material for the concrete. So materials, um, there should be a concrete right here. And then I think I just use number two. So I think for the concrete and the asphalt, I went with the number two. And then adjust the luminosity. It's not so bright, something like that. So everywhere where there's concrete, and I can add a little bit of grunge. Um, I can add a little bit of yellowish color, not too much, just a little bit. Okay, that looks good for our concrete. We'll have to add something for our mulch here. So let's see if I go to materials, ground, nature, there should be a mulch in here, if I'm not mistaken. Wood chips, yeah, probably wood chips. And then I'll make the scale a little bit smaller. I'll make the luminosity lower, and then I'll give it a little bit of reddish color, just a little bit. Yeah, I think that's good. I'll turn the reflection up a little bit, and then maybe not that high. Depends on what kind of look you're going for. That's probably add a little grunge. It's probably good right there. I'll give it a little bit more color. Okay, so that's our mulch. And then for the parking stripes, what I like to do is take a copy of the asphalt texture. So let's rename this. Add to user library. And I'm going to take this material and I'll just select my eyedropper and click on the little dots, duplicate, and then click on the dots again, rename. This is going to be asphalt light, and then we'll put that on here on the stripes and turn the luminosity and the color up. We might have to use a different material because it's not getting very bright because we started with a dark one. So let's just start from scratch. Material in the library, materials, ground, man-made. Let's do start with a lighter asphalt, maybe something like this. Yeah, I don't know. That looks kind of weird. I think maybe one of these. I don't know. Those are kind of weird too. Let me see if I can just. It's got a weird color to it. I can't really change that. I think maybe this is the one I'll start with, the asphalt road one. Turn the scale down a little bit and then turn the luminosity up. Yeah, that's better. That looks good. It still has some texture in there. So it looks like it's painted on. Let's rename and save this one. So let's see here. Okay, this is looking good. Okay, let's go back to our view. Um, so the last material that we have to do is the brick material on here. So let's find the brick material. Brick. Think It was this one or this one. I can't remember which one. Oh, that looks a little bit old. I think I went with this one to start with. I can't remember which one I'm supposed to use. So if you can't find the kind of brick that you want, you just have to use your own materials. Um, and then, because you can use materials from SketchUp that are textured already, and then you can edit them inside here. You just have to make sure, like I said, that you bring the texture image folder with you wherever you take that Twinmotion file. So if I want to edit this one a little bit, I can I can edit the scale, click on more under the scale, and then I can go to axis and I can stretch the scale this way. That's probably good for now. Then I can edit the color, give it a little bit more orangish, yellowish color, a little more reflection. That's probably good right there for the brick. I might make this a little bit less reflective. I don't know. Actually, more reflective looks good. I think that was good. And then for this in here, I use a tile texture. So go to materials. Well, first, let me save this. And then in materials, tiles, and then I use kind of a honeycomb. Thought that looked kind of cool for this one, but I made the scale bigger like that, and then a little bit less luminosity and more reflectivity, more like that. Something like that. And then for this here, uh, I used a little bit of glow, pretty sure, but it's hard to get just a little bit. Maybe I'll just type in 0.2, and then for this one, I can make it glow a little bit like that. That's probably too much. Probably somewhere around 10 is good for that one. Okay, let's look at the user library. So I need to add this one to my user library. Now, if you're already in the folder that you want it to go into, it's a kind of a shortcut. It will just automatically zap it right into that folder, which is kind of good if you're doing a lot of one type of thing, like a lot of textures or a lot of plants or whatever. That's definitely a good shortcut. Okay, so that's all of the textures, um, except for the grass, but there's a special way to do the grass. There's a trick that something can be really frustrating if you don't know how to get around it. I'm going to show you how to get around it so you don't have to go through the hours of pain and suffering to figure it out. And I already figured out a way to make it a lot easier to do the grass. So I'm gonna do file, incremental save. Okay, so um, next thing, uh, let's put some lights in here. So, oh, I forgot. We need to add some materials on these light poles. We could just leave the one that's on there and just make it more reflective. And then this one should be have transparency, and then this light material in here. Now it's the camera's moving faster than I want it to, so if I press like 3, the camera will move slower. If I press 2, the camera moves slower, so I can zoom in a little bit easier. So I've got this is the glass material. I want to take the color out of it, so it's just clear glass, and then this is the light material. So I'm going to go to materials and then find a glowing material, neon, and I'll just do a basic neon material for the lights. And then my camera wants to move faster, so I can click 5, and now it moves fast. That's probably too much. I'll click 4, and now the camera moves smoother. So, let's now let me get this material. Go to my user library, add that material. Okay, now let's add some actual lights in the scene. So click on lights and then just do a spotlight. Um, and then select the spotlight. I can select it over here. It's kind of easy. I'm going to bring it down a little bit. There's the move, rotate, and scale here. And then I can adjust the intensity, the angle, turn shadows on and off. I probably want shadows on. You don't want too many lights that have shadows on because then it will slow down your scene. The color, I usually like it to be a little more white. The lower the number, the more red or orange the color is, and then the higher, the more blue it is. I usually like to be around 7,000 or 7,500. Um, I guess if you let me do 7,500. It's usually a really crisp white light at 7,500. That's what I like to do. If you like it to be a little more yellowish, you can turn it down like 6,500, or the lower it is, the more orange or red it is. So I don't want to add too many lights in the scene because it'll just slow down the scene, but I want enough. So I'll probably add 3 lights. I'll right click it in here in this outliner and say, I thought I could duplicate it here, but I guess I can't. I think if I click on it, right click on it out here, um, I guess if I click on I guess the only way, I thought I could just tell it to duplicate, but sometimes when I duplicate, it crashes. So I'm definitely going to save it before I try to duplicate it. So I think if I hold down Alt and then I move it, no, it must be hold down Control and move. No, that's not it. Hold down Shift and move. Okay, yeah. So if I hold down Shift and then I move it, I can say, do you want to copy an instance or a copy? I usually tell it to do a copy, but an instance will try to keep the same settings. I guess I could just do an instance because whatever I change on one, it should change the other ones. So shift move, make a copy, and I'm going to put a light on the inside of the building so it kind of shines through the building a little bit and make some shadows coming through the door like that. I could even rotate it a little bit. Click the rotate button here, and then I'll probably make it a little less intense because there's nothing in the building right now, so I don't want to draw too much attention inside the building. And then to clean up our outliner window here, I control click all three of these lights and right click, say move to new container, and then just call this lights. And then I can close up that so that way it keeps it clean. I can find things easier. So I've got a few lights in the scene. Um, I guess now that they're instanced. So that's what happens when you do an instance. So I want to do is I want those two to be brighter than the one in the middle. So um, that's why I usually do a copy, not an instance. So for the interior light, I want it to be a copy. So I'm gonna delete the old one inside there. Just right click, delete it, and I'm gonna move this copy in there. That way, when I change the intensity and the angle and everything of this one on the inside, it doesn't change the lights on the outside because it's a copy instead of an instance. So if I go back to our view, so it's looking good. Um, Definitely want to add some cars and people. So I'll just go to the library, vehicles, cars, and I can just add a few cars out here. Maybe a couple of trucks. Not those kind of trucks. I thought doesn't it have, well, there's a truck right here. To put a truck right there. And then you can also change the color of these cars if you click on it. I don't like brown, so I'll make that white. I'll make this one gray. I'll make this one black. And then that one I'll make dark blue. And then I'll rotate it. Okay, and then we'll add some people, characters. So the ones that look nicer are the posed humans, because they're scanned. They don't move. So if you're doing more animation, you can use animated humans, which are which have, skeletons inside of them, and then when you have them in the scene, they actually move around, but they don't look as real as the pose characters because they're edited in a to make sure they can move. The pose are just strictly scanned in. So add something like this. And then you can see some of them, a few of them don't have the download link, so they're already downloaded onto the hard drive, but then some of them do have the download link. So to get those ones, you have to click the download link first and import them into the scene or into your download onto your hard drive, like we did before with the sky. It's being a little bit slow. I'm not sure why it's being slow. Maybe it's I'm logged in. I think it's just kind of crashing a little bit. Doesn't want to behave. It's weird. I'm gonna try to save the file and then close it and reopen it. See if that maybe I'm running out of memory or something. I don't know what it would be. Uh, I'm gonna actually close this down, and then my last save is right here. So I'm gonna double click that, and then we'll just open it right up. Let's see if that freed up the memory, or whatever it needed to download. It's running a lot of processes, so let's get our windows back and go into characters, post humans, business, and yeah, let's see here. Where will we at? I have to log in. So if these are grayed out, it's not downloading because you're not logged in. So I click on this three lines, click sign in, and sign into Epic Games however you can, however you usually sign in. And okay, so now I should be able to download. Okay, now it's working. So this one's downloaded. And the first time you bring it into your scene, you won't see it because it's not actually loaded yet. So you click it and it will load it into memory. You only have to do that the first time and then hit escape. So now if I ever use the same character again, it will automatically come in because it's already loaded into memory. Just gonna delete that. Okay, so that looks good. Um, next, let's work on just getting some trees in here, um, and plants. So click on vegetation, go to bushes, and then I can just um, I can put this in there. It's a little bit too big, and this is where the user library comes in handy because if I scale this down to the size I like, and then I go over here and I right click and I add it to the user library. Let me clean this up a little bit over here. I'll put these into a new container, cars. This will be people. And then I go to my user library and then I can make a new folder called plants. Now it will be the size that I like. So if I click on this in the user library, I can add more plants at the size that I like. And then I want to try to find a different kind of plants. Let's see, maybe this one, and then one more, maybe this one. That's a little bit big. And then let's try to find one that has some flowers on it. Oops. Now, there's not a huge selection of plants in the basic library. This one doesn't really have that many flowers on it. Trying to remember what I used to do here. Um, I thought there's a few that have flowers like this one here. So this one has like some yellow flowers. I thought there was so this one has some blue flowers. And actually these ones are the ones I think I was looking for. See, this has some orange flowers. So uh I can make an arrangement from these here, like this, and I'm gonna make this one lower this one down so it's not so tall. Also make it a little smaller. So if I get kind of an arrangement I like, I can make this into a group over here. Just select all of these flowers and then right click and say move to new container and just call this flower group one. And then I can right click on that and move that, add that to the user library. So if I go to my user library and I put this in the plants, now I've got that group. I don't have to recreate that group. I can just click on this. Um, Now it's making the pivot point at a place where I don't really want it to be at. Now I can fix that. So as you can see, the pivot is right there. So if I move this group up so that the pivot point is level with the ground, okay, but then I select all of the objects inside of it and move them down where I want them. Now, if I save that again, see how the pivot is in the right spot now? Right click, add to user library, and then I'll delete the old one. Now, when I add it, the pivot point is in the correct spot. So now the plants are landing on the ground when I add it to the scene. So this is very powerful because you can make your own sets of groups. Um, you could do a furniture arrangement with table chairs, and some artwork on the table or some plates or whatever, and just put it into a group over here. I'm gonna I'm gonna put this as plants. So this is very powerful. Um, now over on this side, we want to add some, so we can just let me go find our um, the plants that we use. Actually, what I'll do is I'm gonna go to my user library, click on this, and then add that to the user library, and then add this one. So now I've got all the plants from that I use on that side, and I can just add them to this side very quickly. I'm actually going to change this, put those over here, and then move these ones over here. And then see, all of these are from the other side, so I could go in here and make this into one group and just say make this into a new group, planter right, and then I could make all of these flowers and plants into a new group. Right click, planter left, and then put both of those in the plants folder. That way I could I can edit each one separately, but it's very organized and clean over here in the outliner window. Okay, so as you can see, this user library is very powerful. Creating your own groups and saving them into here the way you like them is very powerful. You can use any objects too. It makes sense to do one group of plants, one group of furniture. You could make groups of people like you could that you like in that group and then reuse that group in other projects. So you don't have to go looking for those same people. That's very powerful potentially to you. So let's go and save. Okay, let's add some trees and in the same way we did with the plants, we can find a tree we like and then just add some around. And then we can save that tree, add the user library, and then make another folder called trees. And then also we could make a new folder called vegetation and then put our trees and our plants inside there. So let's go back to our library, pick another tree, find something. Let's use this one, but let's make it bigger. And then let's go to our user library, trees, right click, add to user library. Now, when I do this one, it'll be the same, the size I like. And then what I like to do is I like to fill in behind in the background with some more trees, but something that is more full and just kind of covers up the background with trees. Because in real life, it'll be either covered with buildings or trees. So something that's gonna be a larger scale, but will cover up the background. And I think what would be good for that, maybe the only thing is this has figs on it, and I don't really want to do that. I want something more plain. If I do this one, but I make it older and then I make it bigger, I could do possibly just make this as kind of a ground cover in the background. Maybe make it, I can click on leaves tint and then make it a little darker. And what I'll do with this one is first I can go to the user library and I'm going to make a new folder in the vegetation called background. Or actually, I'll name it cluster. And then I'll go into there, add the user library. And then I'm going to also, I want my camera to be at 5. So I just type 5 on the keyboard. And then I'm going to do a cluster of like probably 4 of these. And that is going to I want to obscure the background a little bit. So I want them a little bit close together. So I'll add this into a new container and make it cluster. And then I'll right click on that group and add that to the user library. And then I don't need this one anymore. So I'm just going to delete it. And now I can add this cluster to the background. And that's going to really help me to mask out in the renderings. You'll see nice little tree foliage like in the reflections of the glass. It won't look like you're looking into an infinite horizon. That's always a bad sign. So if I go back to my camera view now, um, I didn't quite do what I wanted it to because I've got some holes still. Uh, but I probably should have just left that one. I'll just grab one of these so I can use this to fill in the holes. I'm gonna go to my camera and just fill in the holes here like that. That I don't need to do too much, just enough so that you don't see way into the distance because that's not realistic. But as long as my main views look good, I'm happy. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Probably want to add a few more regular trees. Um, let's just pick another tree. We can do a spruce tree. Put a few of those around. And add that to the user library. Let me clean up these trees here. So all of these are trees. So I can just put these, select them, right click, move to container there. So for example, if I wanted to just hide the trees right now, I could just click this eyeball right next to the trees and I can hide these things so that I can more easily work. For some reason, though, it hides the light shining from the lights, but you can still see the little light object, which is kind of weird. I don't know why it does that. So, like for example, we'll start working on the grass next, and I don't want to have all this stuff in my way and kind of slowing down the computer, and I just want it out of my way. So keeping this clean in the outliner is a very smart thing to do. So let's go ahead and just save where we're at right now. Just save this. And the next thing we're going to work on is the grass. Okay, let's work on the grass next. So, like I said before, we'll just hide all of these groups except for our SketchUp model. Yeah, and then we have the ground plane and the sky. So to get grass on here, there's a few different ways you can do it. You can use scatter, and you can paint the grass on. I've tried all different ways, and um, I don't like using scatter because the grass spills over the edges onto the concrete. It doesn't look that good, so I like to use the paint tool. So if I go into vegetation and then grass, and there's all different kinds of grass, and they have different, some that looks more wild or more like orangish grass. But I think what I like to do for normal lawn grass is just use this lawn 01. So, um, what I'll do is I'll start with one of these grass objects. Now, the reason why there's different colors, patches of grass, is because there's a glitch that I don't think is fixed yet. So the last time I checked, what happens is if you paint anything in Twinmotion, such as grass, and then you change the geometry and then you re-import the geometry, let's say from SketchUp, anything you painted on that geometry will disappear. Instead of just removing the piece that has changed, it will remove all of the grass. Let me let me show you an example of what I mean. So I'm going to open up the SketchUp file, and as an experiment, I'm going to grab I'll just grab these main patches of grass, and I'll move a copy up here, and then I'm just going to make that into a group. Double click on the group, and then I'm going to explode all of this and then give it all the same material. So I'm just going to give it a new material and just give it a unique name, whatever that may be. Give it kind of a greenish color. And so this is all one object with the same material. Now I'm going to save this, go back into Twinmotion, go click on our import tab, the button right here, and then click this refresh button. So what that will do is it will re-import our SketchUp model. So that as you can see, that new plane of grass I added, this is just for an experiment. I want to show you what happens. So if I click on that grass and then I go to my vegetation, grass, and then I click on the lawn 01 and I drag this onto the grass. So that is going to start making a patch of 3D grass, which is good. So I'm going to go into this where it says context and then vegetation paint. Um, and actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop that grass into here. Um, so I think I'm going to delete this. So I think this is what I'm supposed to do. So I drop it into here. So again, go into this context button, vegetation paint, go into vegetation, grass, drag the lawn in here. I just want one. And then I select on it. Um, and I put the density to 100%. Click on this paint button. And then the diameter, um, what I need to do is I need to change it. Right now it's using meters, but I want it to be using inches, so I'm going to change it to inches. So if I select on this and I click on the paint, um, so each kind of grass has a different settings that you want to use. And I've experimented with this 101. I have to go to 37 inches, and if I paint 37 inches or less, it will be the right, very full, dense patches of grass, which is the way I want it to be. If you can see, if I go um, to something higher and I paint, it's a lot thinner. As you can see, this is thicker grass on the right side. That's at level 37 inches. So if I select on this and I click paint, first I'm gonna go delete. I'm just gonna delete this part. So if I go to 37 inches, I can paint it at full thickness. But if I go any higher, like 38 even, and I paint it, oh, actually that looks good. Maybe they changed the settings, but let's try 75. So you can see it's a lot thinner patches of grass. So they may have changed the settings since they last updated Twinmotion. So maybe it's not 37 and is the exact number. Um, I'm not sure what it is now. I have to keep narrowing this down. So if I type in 60, that's not right. I could type in 40. No, that's not right. 38 looks good. 39 looks good. So I guess I was wrong. It's not 37, it's 39. So I want my density at 100% and my diameter at 39. If I go any higher than 39 and I try to paint this grass, if I go to 40 and I paint the grass, it will look bad. It will look really thin, and that's not what I want. I want this nice, thick, full grass, like the one on the right side, not the one on the left. And I can go lower. So if I select on this grass and I click on paint, I can go to 10 and that will paint full thickness. That's fine. If I want to get more detailed in the edges, I can go lower than 39, but I can't go any higher or else it will not be the right thickness. So the glitch that I want to show you, just for the sake of this experiment, I'm going to turn this up to 100. I know that's not the right setting, but just so I can show you, if I took the time to paint all of the grass in the whole scene, and I spent more time being careful to go around the edges, which I'm not doing right now, but I would in the real project. So, and now I'm happy. Oh wow, the grass is all done. And then I go back to my SketchUp and I'm like, you know what? No, I need to make this just change this edge right here and make it more round. Okay, and then I change that surface, I save it, go back to Twinmotion, and then I refresh the model, and poof, the grass completely disappears. It's gone because I changed the surface that it was painted on. It got confused. It didn't know how to, I think they should fix it soon. They will fix it. I don't know exactly when, but it should just delete the patch of grass that was changed on this corner, not delete the entire patch of grass. But right now, that's a glitch, and it's been discussed in forums, so I'm sure they know about it. They just haven't fixed it yet. So to get around that very frustrating thing happening when inevitably you will edit your model. The customer is going to want to make changes. They're going to say, oh, well, can you round off this corner here? And then as soon as you do that, poof, the grass is gone. But what I do is I make separate patches of grass as separate groups with separate materials for each smaller patch. Um, so for example, uh, I'll go just delete this because I don't need that anymore. Save it. I'll refresh this model. So for our second experiment with the patches, so I'm going to select on this patch, and then I'm going to go, I need to get this grass into our user library, by the way. So I go into grass, I'm going into paint, so context, paints, vegetation, grass, drag this grass here, density to 100, paint 39. And what I need to do is just first I need to save this because this is I'm gonna paint the grass, then delete it or use the eraser tool to erase the grass, and then I'm gonna right click on it and say add to user library because I'm just sick of having to find the grass that I want all the time. So I'm just gonna put this grass into vegetation. I'll make a new folder called grass, and then I'll put that here. So now, whenever I want to use it, let's say I'm just starting a new project, I can go into my user library, vegetation, grass, and then drag this in here, and it's all ready to go. All I have to do is click on it, and then type paint, and then start painting. That's the power of the user library. Okay, so let's say I do this, but I'm not going to paint all of the grass. I'm just going to paint this one patch. Okay. So this is the key to getting around this frustrating part of this. Um, I'm not going to take a lot of time to do it really good because I'm going to ruin it on purpose. So now, instead of painting over here, I'm going to hit escape and go out, click on this new patch, go to my user library, find my grass again, and then pull in a new patch of grass and start painting. So you can see this little square that denotes the origin of the patch of grass. So this is a separate patch of grass on a separate piece of geometry group with a separate material. Everything's separate. So I know this one is different than the other patches. And this I can spend more time making this one look good. I'm not going to spend too much time making it look good because I don't want this video to just go on for a long time, but I'll make it look halfway decent because I know it's not gonna disappear on me like the other one did. So I'm at my 39 setting, 39 inches of density, or density is at 100. It doesn't look like it, but when I click on it, it shows 100. I know it's at 100 because I can see it looks good. And then I would do the same thing for the other patches. So select on that, another patch, drag out another patch of grass and start painting. And I would take more time to go inside the lines. But I'm kind of rushing it a little bit because just so I can show you how to do this. Then I'll do this for all of the patches. And then I'll do it for this one over here. I'm not gonna take too much time like I would if this was really a project I was working on and not just a tutorial. I'd take a little more time to make it look nicer and go right to the edges. Okay, let's call that good for now. So now we've got these separate patches. So now what will happen if I change something in the geometry of the model, but let's say I just need to change this one corner. So I change this, make it more rounded, and then I fill this in. Let's say that's all I had to do. And then I save it, go back into here. Now the grass is going to disappear, but only this patch, not the other patches. So when I go refresh this model, see the grass disappeared, but only on that one patch. So I can just find that patch. That's the first one I did, or I guess I don't know what I think those other ones are from uh from the other experiments. So they're already gone. I can just delete those. But this one I can delete also because the grass has disappeared. So I'm just gonna redo that one patch, which is not that much of a headache compared to redoing the entire scene, which is a big headache. So yeah, it's a little bit frustrating, but not nearly as frustrating as having to redo all of the grass every time you make a little change. So this patch system, I don't know if anyone else has been doing this, but this is something I decided I was going to do to get around this being such a frustrating issue. if anyone knows a better way to get around this disappearing painted object uh, glitch, please let me know because I would like to know if there's a better way. But for now, this is the best way I could find to do it. So after we get all of our grass the way we like it, each patch done, we need to actually add a material underneath the grass that looks more like grass. So we'll go to our materials, ground, nature, and then just click on the grass. And it's a little bit bright green. It doesn't really match the 3D grass. The 3D grass is a little bit darker, so I'm gonna take down the luminosity of it to about 20 to add a little grunge to it. And I think that looks good. So the ground underneath the grass looks more like grass. Maybe I take the scale down a little bit. That's too much. I think 8.85 looks good. So I'll rename this. Right click, add to user library. Put this in my materials folder. And then I'll just use the same material and just drag it onto all the places where there's grass. Even out here, I can just make that grass. Now that when I'm done painting the grass, I don't need these to be separate materials anymore because my master plan is complete. I've saved myself from a major headache, and we've got some 3D grass, and we're up close. I can I'll put all of these painted grass into a separate folder. Keep this clean, turn on all the rest of the objects, and then go back to our view. That's looking pretty good. I definitely need to add more grass here. That should be good. Um, I'm going to save this, incremental save. Now, there's one thing I forgot to do that I always, when I cut these lines inside of a material, I always give it a separate material, but I still want it to be close to the same material out here, but just darker. So I could just leave it. I think I think that the SketchUp material that's already in there is pretty dark and it's probably fine. So I just want to point out that I always do that because if you use the same material, even though in real life this would be the same material as out here, but the shadow was what gives that crisp line. But in the rendering, I cheat it and just make it a darker material because I like it more definition in the model than in it. Even though it's not 100% realistic, I just think it looks better for rendering. So we've got our three views set up, um, and we can render those out with this export button down here. Um, so if we go to the image, click on more, we can look at the format. That looks good for now. And then we'll go to export, click on more down here. This is the bottom button, is export. Click down here, more under image. Instead of PNG, change that to JPEG. Turn refinement to high, and then max lighting on. And we're gonna have to do that. So that's for all the images. So now I can click on here, control click all the images, and then just say start export. Also, but I'm not gonna do that right now. So now I'm gonna go back into my media tab, and now that I've got my three images set up the way I want them, I'm gonna go to presentation, add a presentation, click on add media, and I'm gonna control click all of these images. Those are the images I set up already. And now these are in a presentation. And what the presentation is, it's going to export to that website where you can have a live link that you can send someone. And I'm just going to rename this to test. Just give it a name. There's there's another thing I forgot to do. So in these um, reflections aren't very good at first. You can enhance them with a reflection tool. So you go into library, into tools, and there's a reflection probe tool. And I'm going to use a box reflection and just put that right here. And you just set it out in front of the glass and it makes it look better because it's giving it a real-time reflection, but it's using like a video game type of kind of a cheat, and I can add, I'm going to add them along this path here. I'll add one more right here. And I want to make the size down a little bit and make the transition a little bit more crisp. Um, and actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to save that one. Since I like that one, I'm going to save it in the user library and make a new folder, call that reflections. That way, I'm going to delete these other ones. Um, that way I can get the settings that I like are already included. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. And I can add some of these reflections over here as well. That looks better. I could add them on that side, but I don't. Yeah, I'll add them on this side, just in case someone walks over here. Okay, so let me group these together. I'll save this. Now, um, now that I have this all set up the way I like it, I can click on this export button and I can export the images as JPEGs, or I can click on this presentation, click on the test presentation, and say start export. And what that will do, it's a one click, it will take this whole project scene with the camera views, the lights, the objects, materials, everything we did, and it will automatically upload it to the cloud and make a website link that you can send people. And it's just one button click. It just takes a minute to load it on the website, and it is amazingly easy to get this 3D website. To me, this is the most amazing tool to be able to send the customer a link and they can open up on their phone. It works great on a phone. It works great on an iPad or a computer. It doesn't matter because it's not using their video card or their processor to walk around the model. It's just streaming it from the website. So I can click this button, open Twinmotion Cloud, and right here it's loading it. It's still working. Um, while that's loading onto the website, I'm going to let that go. And I'm going to show you. So we could just render these images out like this, but you can make it look a little bit better if you add in this path tracer. So it looks like a bunch of little dots. Now, if they haven't, they might have fixed this, but if they haven't, what will happen is this is the second really weird glitch in Twinmotion that they need to fix. If you click this path tracer for the first time, it will make everything go dark. And it doesn't make any sense. I don't know why it does it, but all it does is just turns all the lights to zero. So before I do that, I'm gonna save it just in case I mess everything up. I have a version I can go back to. So I'm gonna click on the image, click on Path Tracer, and everything goes dark except things that are glowing, which is it's totally stupid, and it's the second big glitch that they need to fix. So to fix it ourselves, I'm going to show you how to do it. So you don't have to search any internet forums to figure out what was wrong. Click on more, go to lighting, and see the sun intensity is at 0, but we had it at 13. So I'm going to type in 13, enter. Moon intensity, I think was 1.5. And then go into skylight, more, and then intensity was at 17. Now everything is back to normal, except now we have path tracers turned on, so you can see the reflections are way better than they were before. It's even too good in the asphalt, so I'm gonna have to adjust that to have less reflection. I'm gonna try 75. It's usually a pretty good number. I can it's just the reflections are so good now that I might have to go way lower. I don't want to blast the reflections too much. Maybe 65 is a good number. And now the glass even looks too reflective. It all depends on, what you want in there. Um, but the metal looks amazing and these tiles look amazing. So, um, let's just call that good. Actually, so the thing is, the reason you can't leave this on all the time is because you can see when you move, it's really choppy and it has to render. It takes like 10 seconds or 15 seconds just to render the image. The lighting, the reflections are working overtime, and um, you can't export this level of quality to the website because it's not real time. It's trying to calculate too many things at once with all these ray trace reflections, and this glow is a little bit too much. So I'm going to go into settings. I'll turn it to 5, and let's do that. I think that's better. So now I can go to the other. Now I could go to this and then, change the settings for each one, but there's a little trick I know. So you click on this one and I got all the settings correct. Now, actually I need to go out, quit the media mode, but then go into, so this is what I forgot. Instead of going into the image, just let's say you're on the view you want, but you click this button, quit media mode. So now you're in the main window editing your project, but you have path tracer turned on. So if you change the settings in here, this is the main window. So I go fix my sun settings, my moon, and my sky back to the proper numbers. Now I go into here, but I don't click on the images. I click create new image. So I got that setting correct. Click on this view, click quit media, and then create new image. So now I've got the right camera angle, but all the settings are correct. Now click on the third view, click quit media, and then click create image. Now I'll have to go into here and edit this image a little bit because of the camera and parallelism is turned on. That's the only thing I have to do for that one. So I go back to here and now I can delete these first three and it just saves me. Oh, I can't delete them because they're being used in this presentation. So what I need to do is I need to go into this presentation and I need to delete these, remove these images, and then pull in my new images that are fixed for path tracing. Now that's done. Now I can go back into the images and delete these three. Now my settings for my path tracing are correct for all three rendered images for the presentation. And then if I exit media mode and I'm just in the project, the settings are all correct for path tracing. And then if I want to turn off path tracing, I just click this button with all these little dots. The path tracing comes off and I can smoothly walk around again. So I'm using the video game settings instead of the path tracing settings. So it's smoother animation for real time. This is real time rendering versus path tracing. Path tracing is not real time, not yet at least. Computers just aren't that powerful yet. So it's using a lot of different tricks to make it look good, but still update fast enough using the current graphics technology. So let me save this and I'm going to go back and we should be ready to go with our website. I'm going to turn off password enabled so that you don't have to have a password. I mean, if you're working on a top secret project or whatever, yeah, you have to have a password, fine. The passwords are really annoying. So unless your customer requests that you have a password, I wouldn't enable it because then you're going to have a lot of time sending people passwords with emails and texts and people that are trying to get on. Every new person that gets the link is going to have the password also. So now I can click view and it's going to connect me to the server. So this is not running on my computer. This is just the web portal and it's running on the Epic Games servers somewhere far away using their GPUs and then streaming the images through the internet, through the browser to whatever device I'm using. And bingo, I can just click the mouse and look around, and then use ADSW or the directional keys to just walk around. And I'm just in this website, but everything looks the way it's supposed to. Now, this link right here is the link that you need to send people. So I can just click copy link and then I could close everything. I could just close everything down. I could send this link to someone. So I've got this link here, and then you just copy and paste this link into an email or a text, send it to someone. They click on the link, and then it will load up the presentation for them. So powerful. So the big takeaways are the workaround for the grass disappearing, the disappearing grass glitch, I call it. So that way you don't have to redo all the grass if you edit the model. There's always going to be edits. You might think you're fine, you're safe, and then you change one little thing in the model and all the grass disappears. You don't want that to happen, trust me. I've had it happen. It's very frustrating. And then also we went over the path tracer. When you first turn on the path tracer, you have to just turn on the sun settings for the lighting settings for the sun brightness, the moon, and the sky back to the correct settings, and you're good to go for more crisp images for your renderings. But this is the website presentation. This is all using video game technology, using the Unreal Engine technology in the background. So this is like a high resolution video game, but it looks pretty good if you follow a few principles, you use those reflection probes to get some decent fake reflections, and then the human eye, it looks pretty good. All these reflections are fake. What is fake, what is real? It's just a computer program. It's just simulating as close as it can get to what it real life would look like. Everything's fake. You just have to figure out what works best for your situation. Real time has to be using tricks, and path tracer can take a little longer, and it looks a little bit more crisp. Now, um, there's one more thing I want to tell you to do. This is very important because all that work that we did to build up our user library, and then we can use the same trees, the same background clusters, the same materials over and over in projects that are a lot of the materials are going to be the same. Like a metal, you get a good metal that you like, and you can just reuse it in every project. You get, your glowing material, your asphalt, your concrete. You don't have to do redo the settings, just have it in your user library. But if you ever crash your Windows or your hard drive fails, you will lose that library if you have to reinstall Windows and then you reinstall the Epic Games launcher and then you reinstall Twinmotion. So if you go to your computer, your hard drive, and you go to the Documents folder in your Windows, you see Twinmotion with the latest version. Double click on that, and then you'll see this folder called User Library. Double click that, and you'll see all the folders that we made. So here's the vegetation. This has the clusters, the grass, the plants, the trees, everything that we built is in here. But if you ever have to reinstall Windows, you will lose it. So just click on Documents, click on Twinmotion, double click Twinmotion, and this folder right here, right click and copy it, and then back it up to an external hard drive. So I've got an external hard drive right here. I have a backup already in a certain spot, um, but I'll just show you. I'll just back it up here, copy and paste that folder. It's not enormously large. And also back up this folder to the cloud drive, like a Google Drive or a Dropbox or a Box.com, somewhere where if you lose your backup, you have a backup of your backup on the cloud somewhere. And as you do your projects, you're going to refine your library. You're going to have exactly the plants you want, the trees you want, everything the way you want it. Um, and you don't want to lose that. You want to back it up after each project. So to recap, we just went from beginning to end creating this project in Twinmotion from a simple SketchUp model, and we went through all the steps. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you get some use out of it. Thank you.